Welcome to a new era of investing, where your portfolio is a reflection of you. Gone are the days when investing was solely about financial gains. Today, it's about aligning your money with your morals. According to Forbes, over 80% of investors aged 40 and up, and a staggering 90% of those between 24 and 30, are keen on making their portfolios a mirror of their values. So how do you make your portfolio your own? First, there's screening. Think of it as your ethical filter, weeding out companies that do not align with your values, be it environmental concerns or diversity in leadership. Next, we have asset allocation, the art of balancing risk and return, tailored to your unique financial goals. Historically, this idea has roots in faith-based investing, where ethical screens were applied to exclude sectors like gambling or abortion. But today, it's a broader movement, especially among younger investors who are driving this trend into the mainstream. Remember, your portfolio is more than just numbers. It's a statement of who you are and what you stand for. So as you ponder your next investment move, ask yourself, does it align with your values? Because in this new age of investing, your values are your most valuable asset. Bruno, you were very involved on the institutional side of impact investing. Can you share some challenges and solutions in values-driven investing?
You bet. So my analogy for this space has always been food, and here's what I mean by that. You know, when I was a kid, my mom would serve chicken for dinner, and we never asked, where did this chicken come from? Today, people want to know everything there is to know about what's on the table in front of them. And the same change has taken place with investment portfolios. It used to be people really only cared about volatility and returns. That people want to know now, how are those returns generated? What do these companies do? What do these products do in the world that we live in? What kind of footprint do these companies have? A million questions about the contents of portfolios. And so the idea that the content of the portfolio and how the companies in your portfolio relate to the world that we live in is it's everywhere. You can't escape it. Now, different people have different ideas about what should be in or out of their portfolios, and that's fine, you know. But the concept that you can align the contents of your investments with your own personal philosophy, I think that's almost ubiquitous now. I did want to pivot to one super interesting and I think leading edge area that people have been looking at and I've been involved with, which is the whole concept of transition financing for very high greenhouse gas emitters. And this is effectively investing in a portfolio of companies that are huge emitters in providing the capital that's needed to change their production facilities. I'll give you an example. One of the studies that we did before I left showed that if you took a stainless steel producer and changed their production process from a highly energy intensive natural gas and other sources of energy to produce stainless steel and switched it to clean energy, hydroelectric and solar, you would actually accumulate enough carbon credits that it would help finance the transformation of the plant and then produce stainless steel that was effectively green. And there are a lot of industries that look like that. Some of the most energy intensive industries are industries you can't escape from: steel, cement, aluminum. So you can't do away with those products, but can you produce them in a green fashion? And what our studies showed is that under the right circumstances, as you shift the production methodologies, you can self-finance those changes through a combination of risk capital and carbon credits. And the thing that would really close the circle would be is if Europe finished the process of having carbon budgets for industries and barrier taxes for high carbon equivalents for low carbon equivalent. So, for instance, if you're sourcing steel to make a car and you get charged for the scope 3 emissions that are embedded in the steel, you, the buyer, are going to shift to a greener form of steel because it will effectively be cheaper. But you need to have a barrier tax to keep steel that has a really high carbon input but looks like it's the same price, effectively shifting it to a higher price. And I think that regime is coming. It's clear that we're never going to hit our glide path towards a lower degree future unless we do something about these heavy carbon emitters that make things that we use every single day that aren't going to go away. And I think that's transformational, and I think it actually has huge return potential. It's been shunned by investors because people say, well, I don't want a whole portfolio full of companies that look like that. But if you have a portfolio of those kinds of companies that are transformational and you're providing the risk capital and the management has an actual plan to reduce their carbon footprint, you can get from A to B. And I think potentially really interesting because it would actually get us on a better path to where we need to go.
Laura, as a banker, you felt like you were helping the rich get richer. How does it feel to be doing the impactful work that you're doing in your home country today?
Wow, it feels. I feel like I've been re-identifying myself all this time. Somebody once told me in the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, I'm actually defining myself now as a mompreneur. But in the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, somebody told me that your identity is the opposite of your potential. So it's like, wow, blown away by that. And like, how can we unpeel all the layers of our identity, explore that, question that, and see what is within me driving extractivism? What is within me driving colonialism? What is within me driving patriarchy, inequality? Like, how am I part of this? And so it was, for me, it has been completely transformative. Within me, there are indigenous genes, but there's also colonialistic genes, and I've only been educated in a modern university kind of education. So I had to explore, the edges. I had to explore things that are more alternative and things that are more outside the mainstream in order to re-educate myself and unlearn tons of paradigms. So I feel like I'm in a healing process, and I heal myself while I, bring that healing process to others. So I think it's super profound. I think it's super spiritual. I think regeneration comes from within. You cannot start investing in regeneration outside of you if you are not willing to bring it from within. And there's a proverb, I think, from India that is like, when you break an egg from the outside, life ends. And when you break an egg from the inside, life begins. So anything that you want with a positive outcome has to start from the inside out. And so I've been like, I'm remembering one session with a next gen family office. And I remember there was this investment thesis on regeneration, but it was being called as a Trojan horse within the investment of the larger family. And I was shocked by that. I was like, how can we be using a war metaphor for an investment thesis that it's supposed to be regenerating? So I kind of questioned that, and it brought, I think, the light to some complexities and some conflicts within the family, and the way that we are framing, oh, let's regenerate the world and let's regenerate the planet. It has to come from within, and there's always a process, and there's always a complexity to human relationships. But I think it's really important to see that if we're working in sustainability, we need to be sustainable ourselves. And the first thing that needs to be sustainable is relationships. And relationships require a ton of love and a ton of radical collaboration. So I think I feel transformed, and I've heard that people can only be changed if you feel the heat or if you see the light, and it's better if it's possible that we can change the world through the light. So that's what I'm trying.
That's beautiful. Let's
Mhm.
wrap it up and hit segment 5.